Hello everyone, thank you so much for being part of Joy Asonye Live this beautiful evening here on KAFTAN television. Well, with the many very dire stories we've been hearing about sexual abuses and how to better protect the Nigerian girl child, that's what we'll be discussing on today's edition of the program. It's becoming very worrisome as to what we can do to ensure that the girl child is protected. Where does this really lie? The family, the government, the schools? Where does it really lie? How can you and I, as a community, be more intentional about protecting the girl child? If for anything else, for the future of our country? We'll be discussing that here on the program. And we have in the studio Betty Nna. She's the project lead of Sexual Harassment HQ, that's the SHE project, of the Young African Hangout NGO. Betty, I must thank you for being part of the program.
Thank you very much, Joy. Thank you.
It's wonderful to finally have you here, especially because Betty is Rivers State based. It took a lot to drag her to the studio, but it's exciting, and we'll get to learn about what she's been doing to ensure that the girl child is protected and how we can reverberate this or cascade it all over the country. Well, we'll be right back after this very short break and get into the conversation. Like I said earlier, we are discussing how we can better protect the girl child in Nigeria, especially sexually, from predators. Again, we have Betty Nna. She's the Young African Hangout, that's a staff of the Young African Hangout, and she's a project lead of Sexual Harassment HQ, that's the SHE project. I must thank you again, Betty, for being part of the program. But let's talk about what is going on right now. It seems like it's part of everyday life to see that one young girl, in fact, these days, minors, it's getting even younger. Younger children are being sexually harassed. I don't know. I like to think that there was such a time it was really frowned upon in Nigeria. There was such a time that when such things happen, it was indeed an abomination. But we're seeing that more people who are supposed to be trusted in the family are getting engaged in this. Fathers, uncles, big brothers, cousins are doing this. Let's go back to the basis. Where did we start getting it wrong?
All right. Thank you very much, Joy. You know, sexual harassment is now like it's no more news. It happens every day. It's from the foundation. Our parents are, complacent. Most of them don't even pay attention to their words, their teenagers, their young ones. Some of them are just, go to work, come back, you provide the basic needs that those kids want, but they don't really pay attention to the emotions of these girls.
So would you say that if the parents were more involved, the economic challenges have made everybody out there. There was such a time you would say young people, wives were often more at home than, taking care of the home. And like our past president would always say, Zawza room, that's where we were relegated to. Yeah. But economic challenges have forced us to the streets. So it's not just the man that is out there trying to make ends meet, we have the woman as well. So what happens to that communal life that we have always known? A child was a child of the community. So where are we getting it wrong? Is it that we have now decided to be very lonesome and are alienated from what's going on?
Like I said earlier, our parents should pay more attention. That's like the foundation is totally wrong, because sending your child to school, they don't totally learn all that they're supposed to learn in school, like as regards sexual harassment. Now, that's where we, the Young African Hangout, and then the SHE project come in. We go to, communities, religious gatherings.
We'll get there, Betty. We'll get to what the SHE project has been doing.
Yeah, so like I said, the foundation
right
is faulty already, because our parents, like our mothers, don't pay
that much
attention to these girls, in fact to the young ones, because even the boys too get sexually abused.
Exactly.
But we are focused on the girl child because they are the ones who get more abuse. If you check the statistics, the girl child gets more abuse than the boy
child.
Yes, so the foundation is faulty. That's where we are getting it all wrong, from the family, from the homes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would you suggest with the economic challenges that's pushing parents and both parents, I mean, out there? And some parents still are so trusting on family members, neighbors. I know I will share an experience now of getting to a park. It's a public park, really.
Okay.
And a lady just left her child roaming until she forgot and went home, leaving that child. I was lucky to be sitting there to be tending to this child, but I cannot just imagine if this child wasn't with somebody like me and was with a predator. Okay. You understand? So, but I felt good knowing that I was the one, and humanity is saved in somebody's heart, to know Nigerians, we're not bad people.
Yeah.
We'll protect children.
Yeah.
But
yes.
It's like we should no longer trust anybody.
So at that point, Joy, would you say it's the economic challenge that led that mother to leave her young one unattended to?
Carelessness.
Thank you. So that's why I talked about the foundation. Money or economic challenges have nothing to do with our values as human beings first, and then as parents. For you to be a parent, you have to shoulder a lot of responsibilities when it comes to taking care of that person who you brought to the world.
Exactly.
Okay, so economic challenge or not, some parents are leaving their duties for nannies, for their guardians, some of them for their relatives, extended families. You let your young daughter be with a grown-up boy in your house. When you ask them, someone is at home taking care of my child. So I don't think at this point, at the family level, we would say is economic challenge. Yes, we all have to work. We all have to earn a living one way or the other.
Right.
Yes, but that notwithstanding, we shouldn't leave our responsibilities for other people. We shouldn't leave our children in total care of other like caregivers or family members. So
in your work as project lead, I'm sure you've heard several dire stories. One that is, like it said, unprintable. But if you would like to just share some of the stories you have come across.
Okay. So recently, like about some few weeks ago, I and my team, we just concluded like a mentoring session in one of the schools in Port Harcourt. And then one of those girls, we've mentored her. We just went for like a follow-up on these girls and know how they're faring, how have you been able to cope, from this time to this time.
Right.
Are there challenges or stuff like that? So one of the girls told me that, but for now there are no issues, but there's this problem she's having with her mother. I said, what's the issue? She told me, first of all, that she didn't come to school with any snack or money or stuff. I had to buy her lunch and, let's get talking.
Right.
So she told me that there is this uncle that stays close. You know how some Port Harcourt settings, like let me just call like those places are in Abuja too. All these areas where you have like public yards, people living
so close to each other.
Thank you very much.
Right.
So she was like, one uncle sent me on an errand to, buy him food. So I went to get the food for him. Normally, some other times when she, run errands for this particular person, he would touch her in like inappropriate places and stuff like that. So that particular day, she got the food and she just wanted to drop it in front of his door and then run away.
Knowing what to expect.
Thank you. So while she was trying to just drop off the food poured. She ran straight home. The guy came to her house, with so much rage and anger. He was so furious. I sent this girl on an errand and then she poured the food. The mother was like, what happened? That if the mom doesn't pay for that particular food, that he's not leaving their house, that she must pay. The woman had to, rally around to look for money to pay for that food. And then the guy left. The next thing, she picked on her daughter and started hitting the poor girl. You didn't even ask what happened. Why did you pour the food? What led to, you pouring this food? I asked her, did you tell your mom exactly what happened? She was like, whenever I tell my mom, she'll be like, I'm lying. I'm not saying the truth. I'm just forming this up. Why? She said because the guy is so close to her, like her mom, and then they do like 1 or 2 businesses. He will run errands for her mom too.
Well.
I'm like, okay, is that why? She said that she has told her mom countless times, but the woman pays little or no attention to what she says. And that got me. Like, how would I not, at least try to find out? And I told her that because during some of our outreaches, we teach some of these girls that before you run errands for these people, seek permission from your parents. Even when you don't find it, comfortable, like when it's not comfortable or convenient for you, don't say no. We teach them to say no, to be comfortable, say no. Don't be afraid. Don't be disrespectful. You can politely say no and then leave the scene. Okay, so that's one of the stories, like that's one of them recently, because that one got me. So this woman the next day sent her child to school without no food,
as
no
punishment.
snack, as punishment for what had happened, the previous
before.
day. So when I tell you that the foundation is faulty, I know exactly what I'm talking about.
I've also engaged with several advocates such as yourself in the northern part, where you marry a child off to pay debt. I could not for the life of me wrap my head around that kind of story where you're owing a friend debt, and you tell it, I can't pay this debt, it's beyond me, so take my daughter. And this child has to get married to an older person, somebody your father's age, not to mention that the child is not mentally, physically, biologically equipped, psychologically equipped for that institution called marriage. So it's becoming a dire situation. However, we have the Child Rights Act that, although we've talked about the being gazetted in all states, I think at the moment we have about certain states that have gazetted it in the state rather. But what would you say the implementation level is? You work closely with River State. Would you say that a child or a mother can actually get justice after reporting a case
of sexual abuse?
Of sexual abuse?
Yes, I would say yes. A lot, apart from, the organization I stand for, a lot of organizations, they have taken it as like a responsibility to cater for these already victimized girls. And most of the time, I thank FIDA, they are doing a wonderful job in River State already, because they help these victims get justice. It doesn't matter. And for some time now in our country, if you have studied some cases of sexual abuse, you would notice that most of them get justice.
They do?
Yes, they do. They get justice. They get
Wait, are you sure you're talking from all the states?
Not all the states. Not all the states. I mean, like, most of those cases.
To prosecution. Really?
They get justice. Like,
so what's the challenge in trying, because if they get justice, it would serve as adherents to others who want to engage in this. What then is the challenge in making people not get into this kind of?
Okay, so I have a problem with, there's this thing they call already spilled milk, when people cry over things that have happened already. So why do we have to get to the point where it happens and then you start seeking justice and then you start going from one courthouse, from one police station to the other? Why don't we stop it like before it happens? That's where the challenge, that's where, the major problem is. Some people get abused because of ignorance, not knowing, most of those young ones. That's why, I was thinking about it some few years back at about 2 to 3 years ago, I'm like, there are a lot of cases of, young girls getting molested, getting abused. And then you now start running from one place to the other, seeking justice, trying to, get help for this girl. Why don't we try to stop it before it happens? And then you ask me how. Like, how do we stop these things from, happening, and then we seeking justice thereafter? That's why I'm involved in educative awareness.
Just to prevent all of this?
Yes. My organization, my project.
We'll get to that organization. Yeah. I know you keep
going
there.
No, I'm just trying to, because you said, like, what do we do? Do they get justice? Yes. I'm trying to tell you that we don't need to get to the point where these girls get abused
in the first place.
In the first place. It shouldn't even happen. Because once it happens, you can't take it back. You can't take it out of the child's, memory. You can get justice, the offender gets, punished appropriately, but the life and then the emotion of that particular child is dented for a lifetime.
So we'll get to that as well, but you keep talking about the foundation.
Yes.
And I would like us to talk about those institutions that often are approached when an incident happened. So we see that religious leaders are approached. Oh, there's a conflict here. What should we do?
Yeah.
And the role that they play. The police, the Nigerian police, are approached. Okay, this person has defiled my child, or the child is a minor, whether a minor or not, maybe sexual. This person has been sexually abused, and you go to the police. We also have traditional heads who sometimes community heads who sometimes get these cases. Have we done enough in getting them, advocating to them first? Because I've seen cases where even religious leaders are like, forgive, so that your sins too shall be forgiven. We've seen several cases where the traditional head does his best to say, you know what, he's a member of this community, we can't throw him away, exactly, and all of that. So is there enough work in trying to ensure that these traditional rulers understand? And even the police, I've seen cases where the police will not even give you that much response as they should.
Yeah. We've not done enough. Most times, like you said, community heads, traditional heads, clergy heads, sometimes most of them are the perpetrators. Okay? So when cases like that come, and then you're supposed to punish an offender in your level, like at your own level, they'll look at it, God says we should forgive. Maybe we should forgive this person. That's why sometimes when things like this happen, we don't, advise parents or guardians to go straight to, appropriate bodies like the police. Yes, the police will try as much as they can to give, render help to such people. In some cases too, how, some corrupt individuals who try to cover up, or maybe they've been induced by this other party. Okay, I don't think we as individuals, or we've done enough to sensitize these people, aside the girls, aside the people who we look at as the victims. The clergy heads, community heads, the police, most of them are ignorant. Forgive me to say this, they are. Okay, so we've not really done enough to sensitize these people on the damages this particular attack would have on the kids. And then you never can tell the case you're trying to cover, and then not serve justice. That particular child can in turn be how am I going to put it, a problem in the society, and would affect even your own children.
Right.
Be it in their classes, they'll meet in church. You don't know who your kids interact with.
Exactly.
You don't know the kind of children they communicate with. So when you're trying to cover up a lot of ills, when it comes to sexual harassment, it might in turn affect you without you knowing. So that's why, while we are trying to sensitize the young ones, we try to sensitize the adults to tell them the importance, like this is your own social responsibility to protect these people. This is what you should do. These are the pros and the cons. So we have like a part where we sensitize adults, go to religious gatherings, gather the parents, talk to them. Sometimes they don't even know. They don't even know the signs when their kids or when their young ones start putting up those signs. A lot of things have gone wrong. They don't even know the signs and the red flags to look out for. So, yeah, we have a part where we sensitize this, we sensitize adults and parents in general.
We talked about red flags. What are the red flags to look out for? For those who have, especially the girl child, who is often very vulnerable in this instance, sexual abuse, we mean. What are those red flags to look out for?
Okay, so you know how, for instance, there are adults, girls too are involved, like male adults, who try to, coerce this illusion of love is all that matters to those young people. And then you tell them, I love you. And some of them, most times, are unaware of who they really are.
Probably have daddy issues.
Yes. Sometimes some of them have fathers, but most of the time their fathers are not around, to teach them, be that man, the manly figure in their life. So when they go out there and you see one big uncle come to tell you, oh, you're very beautiful and I love you so much, try to show all
that
of those
kind of things you would love to have from family.
Yes. And then at home, you just see someone, maybe they're just joking, and then he'll just be like, tap you in some
very inappropriate places.
Right. So those are the red flags. And then too, I like the idea of, teaching young girls to be like enough in oneself, self-awareness. Because if you really know who you are, I don't think you need someone to come and tell you how beautiful you already know. We teach them, Tell them, I already know I am beautiful. I am enough. Okay? We teach them that your body belongs to you alone. So by the time you see someone coming to be like, Uncle, stop it, you say no politely. You don't do that. You don't touch me. You might take it to be a joke, but it's not a joke to me. Right. You don't do that to me, okay? You don't touch me in such manner. Hey, I don't know you're beautiful. I already know. So we teach them to be self-aware.
But this is something the African mother really lacks. I don't think we were just seeing this in movies recently to know that you can actually tell your child you love the child. Very often in the African setting, the child just gets to know that, okay, she provides for me, she must love me, but we don't get to hear it. We don't get to hear the parents adore you. That feelings that you often get.
You're valued.
Find yourself seeking. You don't get to find it at home. The African setting has for a very long time, I'm beginning to see it recently. However, it's for a very long time been very strict, very principled. In fact, I'm even surprised you're talking about a situation where a girl can actually go to the mother to say, I think I am being molested. Does that even happen?
Yes. Some of them have, been educated to the point where, they have to open up and speak up. But we grew up in an African home. I did too. So we know how most of our parents are, very churchy.
Yeah,
you don't talk about sex.
Yeah. You don't talk about
Once you talk about sex, God forbid. Who taught you that? What is sex?
What,
these kids know these things.
They know.
Yes. Who told you about sex? They don't. But you never would imagine that those girls or those kids already know what they already know, because some of them have been engaged in even watching pornography in schools. I've seen a situation where in church, okay, like there are this group of people that came to church with, you know, and like a smartphone, and they were watching pornography
In church.
in church.
Hold your thoughts, Betty. We are due for a break. This is getting interesting. When we come back from this break, we'll get into where Betty Nah really works. She works with the Young African Hangout, and she's the project lead of the Sexual Harassment SQ. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back from that short break. We've been discussing how we can protect the girl child in Nigeria, especially as the Child Rights Act 2003 has been implemented. I'm not sure why I'm getting it wrong today. Has been established and implemented. Now we have crucial allocation necessary to ensure that the resources to establish the mechanism for its effective implementation is discussed. We have Betty right here in the studio. Betty Nah, she's the project lead of the Sexual Harassment SQ of the Young African Hangout.
Yeah.
And we've been discussing how we can protect the girl child. We've gone through what they are facing, really. She has even discussed some of the stories as she's working on this Sexual Harassment SQ. But let's get into what exactly the Young African Hangout really does. Just give us a synopsis as to what your organization does.
Okay, we are an innovative non-profit organization. We are involved in, you know, young adults development. We gather young people. You know, there are sometimes ideas are born in people, but they don't have the resources and then the capability to, you know, implement those ideas. So what Young African Hangout does is bring young people together, let them, you know, share what ideas they have, and then we help provide all the necessary resources they need to implement their ideas.
Okay. Now, the Sexual Harassment SQ is the She project. That's the She project. You've been working on it as a project lead.
Yeah.
So, would you say that with like what I'm saying, is government doing enough when it comes to allocating enough resources for the implementation of this, especially like we said, the Child Rights Act 2003? There are some states right now that have not gazetted it in their houses of assembly because of some cultural or religious beliefs or other beliefs, really. But would you say that we have enough? Government has to be intentional about funding this.
Yeah, like you said, the government has to be intentional. I wouldn't say they have been so far. The government, they've not been doing enough. That's why you see most individuals and non-profit organizations take it as a responsibility upon themselves, with little or nothing, you know, try to create those changes. For me, government isn't doing, enough as it should when it comes to sexual harassment and abuse in the country.
Let's go to the NGO sector. We have several NGOs in Nigeria, some of whom I'm not sure what inspires them to start. And when they are trusted, I'm talking because I attend a lot of, I don't know if I qualify to call myself a child rights activist or a women rights advocate. However, I work in that sphere a lot, where we try to ensure that we can protect this, especially in the media, amplifying the voices for it. However, we've also had NGOs who have not been well equipped. I mean, they put themselves out there to be fronting, rather, to be helpful to these victims. But when they are approached and push gets to shove, it seems like they're not ready. Is there some sort of regulatory body that ensures that you don't worsen the issues? Because this person who has been sexually harassed is often very traumatized.
Yes, What my organization does, like I said earlier, we do not fight for the right of already victimized young.
Yeah, all for advocacy to
We
avoid.
are out to prevent these
Right.
ill happenings from. We don't want it to even happen. We don't want it to get to the point where it happens and then we start seeking help. So that's why we are out there creating awareness, letting these young girls know the red flags to look out for in perpetrators. Once you see this thing, you know what to do. We teach them how to respond to perpetrators. You know, we are involved in self-awareness, environmental awareness. You know, once they are aware of their environment, aware of who they really are in the society, they tend to protect themselves more. I know there are a lot of organizations that cater for these victims, but that's not what we do at the She Project. We are involved in advocacy and, you know, preventing these ill happenings. So when we go to like schools, communities, religious gatherings, you know, when we gather these young ones, we teach them, sometimes give them, you know, sanitary kits, because we teach them about their bodies too. So while you're teaching them, we give them little souvenirs, give them sanitary kits, you know, provide them with the necessary knowledge that they need to equip themselves, because they have to be prepared. One way or the other, they are going to encounter it, because from age 7 to even 17, as a lady or as a young girl, one way or the other, you would encounter such things. So we teach them how to, you know, equip themselves and be ready for that time.
Right.
So
in your advocacy,
yes,
should you meet a young girl who says, I didn't know all these things you're saying, but I'm being at the moment molested, or now that I know what sexual harassment is, I know I'm being harassed at home, what do you do?
yes, we, you know, enroll such child into like a mentoring session, you know, like to hold you by the hand and walk you through, and then we now involve the appropriate bodies to, you know,
Right.
seek the help that child needs. So that's what we do. From our desk, we move it to the people who now get justice and then stops it totally once it's already, you know, happening to that child. So we involve the appropriate bodies. That's what we do.
Right. So, but what would you say that who are these people that you approach in your advocacy?
Okay. Yes. First of all, we involve the feeder, like we have in Port Harcourt. Such victims, we send them to feeder.
No, I'm talking about in your advocacy. Let's leave the victims now. Who are those people you organize this advocacy outreaches for?
Yes, we have like the young girls, because the She Project is, we cater for young girls, basically, underage and teenage girls, you know, from the age of 7 to 17, thereabouts. We go to, from the junior secondary level, some primary level, sometimes. We also organize awareness and outreach programs for parents, for adults. It's, you know, where we gather grown-ups and teach them, parents, and teach them, these are the signs to look out for. These are the things you don't do. These are what you need to, this is how you need to be involved in your child's life. So we organize such outreaches for teenage girls and underage girls, and for grown-up adults, like parents in general too.
Okay. Now, when you talk about grown-up girls and teenage and all of that, but I've also heard criticism for the kind of the way child rights activists and advocates often approach it. You stuff down information on the girl who is often vulnerable and a victim. Do we expand it for the boys who are often taught that they can do as it pleases them and no recourse whatsoever? Do you have programs for where boys can attend as well, to also know that we don't care what society has taught you, we don't care what you have picked from your family, but it is wrong when you do this to a woman?
Yes. In the Young African Hangout, we have a project where we call the Adams Project. You know, like we have the She Project, we have the Adams Project.
Right.
Adams Project caters for young boys. some boys have fathers, but most men don't play their duties right in the life of their boys. They don't. Most of them don't even have time to converse with their male children. So the Adams Project caters for, the behaviors of those young boys, like we do for the girls, in different communities and then schools. The Adams Project too reaches out to young boys of same ages, teaching them that what you have learned from your families or your environment or, from your peers is totally wrong. We teach them, how to behave towards the opposite sex. We teach them how to, value, let them create like a conducive environment for the opposite sex to thrive.
Right.
So we have the Adams Project in the Young African Hangout, which caters for young boys too.
Betty, let's take this to our universities. A couple of years ago, we got a report of young girls having to be forced to have sexual relations with their lecturers, because when I say forced, I mean
sex for grades. You mean
sex for grades? I mean they are manipulated into thinking you must do that to pass your exams.
Okay.
These are people who aren't minors. These are young girls who you would say to a very large extent they know themselves. They are older. They are no longer minors. They are not susceptible to manipulations. However, we saw that thrive with the report that was released here in Nigeria. So where does help come in situations like that? And I'm not just talking about universities or our colleges. We're talking in situations where you need a job. You need, you find yourself susceptible to this kind of things. So where does it end? Do this advocacy you do, does it also help people in that cadre?
Okay, for now, we have an age range we cater for. The SHE project, we have, like I said earlier, from age 6 to 17. That's where we.
No, I don't want you to talk about your age range now. I'm just talking about young people who now want to get into life, who are in the university level. Would you say that the advocacy and those seminars and those lectures you have given them over the years would help them in future? Is it enough? Because when you look at a possibility of graduating and just letting your body go,
that's where values come in. That's where it comes in. As a human being, you have what you stand for as a person. We all have,
that line we must not cross.
Thank you. We have boundaries. We all went through the university. These things happen. Allow me to tell you that most times, I'm not trying to justify anything. Some of these lecturers, you see, like, they request for sex in return for good grades, okay? But I don't see it happening to, yes, it happens to people who, I don't know, you're trying to be very careful. I'm trying to be, because I'm talking for myself. I've, one way or the other experienced it while I was still in school.
Like the rest of us have.
That's why I said values. You know why? Because if I know what I wrote in my script, I would request for a remark. I would go to the VC. I would ask you to mark my script again. Do you understand? That's why sometimes most of the girls are afraid when they say, if you don't give your body, I will fail you. I know what I wrote, sir. That's why you see some of them come out to blow the cover, because why would you fail me? I have written this exam and I know I'm going to pass. And then you blow the cover. In situations where you see most girls fall prey is when maybe you didn't do well in the exam, and then he would take it as an advantage.
Of course,
I know that you didn't do well.
There's no argument here as to who they approach really. It's often those who did not do well.
Yes.
But it's still a very concerning trend, right?
Yes. So that's why I still talk about values and morals. You won't do it if what you stand for is against it. you won't give your body for grades. Some persons would rather fail that exam and then look for a way, to
get
get
better next
justice.
time,
Not
right?
even get better, maybe get justice. Fail me if I have failed, I'll come back and do better. All right. That's why I keep saying values, morals, and then people blowing the cover when you feel inconvenient, coerced, you understand. So values and morals.
Okay, so Miss Nna,
Yeah.
there's another very concerning one.
Okay.
The one where young ladies are being drugged
Okay.
and then sexually harassed.
Yes.
That has become a trend. I mean, on social media, we've had very gory stories. I'm talking about, there was this young girl, I don't know if you stumbled on that story, where she talked about a friend inviting her, a girlfriend, not even a boy, a girlfriend inviting her to an outing with other guys. When she got there, somehow the girl got her a drink.
Okay.
And after taking a sip, just a sip, she started feeling dizzy and feeling like, she couldn't take more. She ran to the toilet and she passed out in the toilet. She locked herself in there, knowing what to expect, and then she passed out there. That's the kind of stories we've been hearing lately.
Yeah.
And often, if she had gone ahead or maybe sat still, she would probably been taken advantage of. So how can a young lady protect herself from all of this? These are trusted people that are doing this.
Yes. One can never be too careful. Sometimes, we try to be careful. And then the next thing is you try to apply caution in the kind of gatherings and then the things we take into our system. And then be sure of, whatever is offered to you at such gathering.
Right.
A lot of things, now you are very aware of things like this happening. Let me take it in the case of that girl out there. She is aware that things like this happen. So would you not rather take caution when you're out to such parties, even if you trust the people around so much? But at least for the sake of security, there are some security measures as human beings too. We should,
at
take.
all times.
Yes, at all times take.
Whether you're with trusted people, because very often these are not strangers. These are best friends. These are,
trusted people. Even the Bible said, trust no one. So if you say trusted persons, imagine a father defiling his own daughter. That man was trusted even with the life of that girl. But he did it anyways. So we as adults, people who are now grown up, you hang out with friends, we are advised to at least take precaution, security measures when we, hang out with our friends, our relatives, and, people who we seem as trusted persons.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the new government is in place right now, and we are seeing a lot of setting of agendas in all sectors. We are setting agenda for the president, for this and that and all of that. You are a known child rights protector, if there's a word like that, or advocate. What would you say that this government should start prioritizing so that we have a healthy generation ahead?
Okay, so I'd advise that the government, have regulatory bodies, people who, even though I would say, NGOs are doing it, people who would come to, visit the NGOs, what is this thing you're doing? Would like to support. The government should support individuals and organizations who, are trying to offer help to this, to the individuals or to the young ones. I keep saying the young ones because that's my field. But at the end of the day, it's not only the young people that need help. So I think the government should provide, enough aid and help for organizations, who are willing to go all out for these young ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think we have enough traumatic centers or interventions or therapy, or Nigerians, are we beginning to look towards the? Because when you're already victimized, do you send them to therapy?
Yes.
Just so that it does not affect
There are therapy centers,
everything.
but they are not enough. Those are still the things the government should look into, providing some therapy centers, making sure that even the therapists, these days we have a lot of therapists. Most of them are not even,
certified or licensed
to do. You just see anybody come up as a therapist, extorting people. let the government make sure that these people who are in charge of providing help and therapy for these already victimized people are licensed to do these things. They are, they know what they are doing, and then provide centers for people who are already victims to go and get the help that they require. Yes, so
And should they not get help? What do you think is the biggest danger?
It's, they would in turn, be like a threat to the country or to their community.
Oh, really?
Because yes, you would never imagine.
You want to do back to others what you were
Yes.
subjected to.
If I was, treated in this way, every other person gets to feel the pain that I felt. That's where it starts. That's where even kids in their school, you see them practice what they have,
being bullied, being
what they are exposed to
right.
somewhere, be it at home, wherever. They now bring it to school and then practice it with their peers. So you see, it's like cancer, it spreads. So that's why we need it to stop. We don't even want it to happen to one person before you start getting aid. Because at that point, no matter the kind of therapy, therapy helps and aids a lot. But before you get to the point where this person gets total healing and freedom, it takes a number of years. And you never can tell if that person, peradventure, don't get, the amount of help and therapy they require. Sometimes some of them start therapy and stop along the line. They don't even continue, maybe because the facilities are, are not what it should be, or provision for therapy is very expensive to get therapy in this country. I don't know if you know. For you to employ a therapist, you should be, I won't even say among the average class. You should be a rich person or the child of a rich man.
Right.
To get quality therapy. So government should provide therapy centers where even the poor people can,
at least
get
afford.
Yes,
and maybe even get insurance for it.
Thank you very much. Not everybody. Some people want to get therapy, they want to get help, but they can't even afford it. So that's why I said government should make provision and it's not about making provision for the facilities, but getting people who are competent in that field
right?
To
Really
do the job.
Licensed and trained therapists.
Yes. Building a hospital, for example, is not enough, but getting trained and experienced healthcare, givers makes positive impact. So I would say that the government should provide therapy centers that everybody can, have access to with little or even no fees. You can get the help that you require,
need, especially when you are a known victim of sexual abuse. But before, at the beginning of the program, you kept talking about the foundation, the parent.
Yes.
So, and we have really run out of time. How time flies when you're having a good time, right? Well, let's go to, if you have to advise parents right now listening to you, that's your camera. So if you have to advise parents who are listening to you, they have children, really. It doesn't matter the gender at this point. So what would your advice be? That's in a minute, because we are really running out of time.
Okay, so my advice would be that you pay close attention to your words. You pay close attention to your kids, most especially the girl child. I keep saying this because we the females, we are very unique in our nature. We have the nurturing and, nurturing, compliant attitude to take care of people around us. So we get, preyed on most of the time. So please pay attention, pay close attention to your words. Don't always leave them in the hands of the caregivers at home, please. I know it might be hard for every one of us out there trying to get, our hands on, earn a living for ourselves and provide for the family. But that notwithstanding, do not forget your core responsibility, your first responsibility as a parent. Thank you.
That has been Betty Nna. She's she's a member of the Young African Hangout and the project lead of Sexual Harassment STU, that is the She Project. Thank you for being part of the program.
Thank you, Joy.
Yes, it's always wonderful to have a conversation with you. Your passion reverberates, it gets to some of us. But this is where we round it up on Joy Asonye Live, but we'll be back tomorrow with so much more. Do have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.